Welcome to Math Mini Lessons, and today we're going to explore patterns when multiplying or dividing integers on a number line. Okay, this is one of my favorite skills to work on, multiplying with rational numbers. And we're going to multiply, in this case, from left to right, even though when we multiply the order doesn't necessarily matter because it's all multiplication. But we're going to go through it from left to right, and I'm going to start with 13 times negative 3/10. So let's do that first part, 13 times 3/10, and that gives me 39. Because I have one digit behind the decimal, I'm going to match it over here. Because I have a positive number times a negative number, this was negative 3/10, I know my final answer is going to be negative. So don't forget that, because oftentimes when we're writing the problems out here, we don't add the negatives because it just looks visually confusing. So you have to remember to do that at the end. Let's go to our next step. We multiplied these two already, times 1/2. And now we have some decisions to make because we have decimals and we have fractions. And there are two halves you can take. You can choose to change the decimal to a fraction 9/10 using its name and then multiply by 1/2. That's option 1. Or you can choose to keep the decimal and change the fraction, it's a nice friendly fraction, to a decimal 5/10. I personally want to choose this one because here, the problem with my fractions, I'd have to change this. Right, I'd have negative 39/10 times a half, which may not be too bad, but I'd rather just choose the one at the bottom. Again, no right or wrong answer. So let's do the one on the bottom. So I'm going to model times 5/10. And I'm just multiplying 15 plus 4, 19. Remember your decimals again. I have two digits behind decimals, so we're going to do two digits behind decimals in our product. And I have 1 and 95/100ths. And remember, we had one negative times a positive, so my final answer has to be negative as well. 1 and 95/100ths. Take a moment and jot this down into your notes. Let's do one more, and for the second one, I have another simple one, just two numbers to multiply. And again, we have some decisions to make. We can either change 4 and 3/10 to 4 and 3/10 and multiply that by negative 4/5, or we can do 4 and 3/10 times, and you can change negative 4/5. 4 divided by 5, you can just change that and you get 8/10. So I personally like this one better, negative 8/10. And notice how in the first one I didn't have anything between these two and multiplied, and here I started to write one. I'm pretty fluent about that. Honestly, there's again no right or wrong way, but because you're going to start doing a lot of things with X's and Y's and Z's, with unknowns, a lot of times people want to use either a little dot, which can be a little confusing with decimals, or you can just use parentheses. Alright, so again, my preference is the one on the right. So I'm going to stack to multiply. 24 to 34. And because I have two digits behind, I'm going to do the same thing, two digits over here. And I get 3 and 44/100ths. Again, I have a positive times a negative, so my final answer is negative 3 and 44/100ths. It's my final answer. Why? Because I had a negative times a positive. That gave me a negative. Alright, but if you wanted to do it the other way, you could. You would just get 4 times 10 is 40, so 43/10 times negative 4/5, and you would get 50 as your denominator. 4 times 3 is 12, carry the 1, 4 times 4 is 16, so 172/50. And then you'd have to do the division, 172 divided by 50. You see why I didn't want to do all these steps? Can't go into 1, can't go into 17, but 50 can go into 172 3 times, it's 150. And what do I have left? 22. And I'm going to pop in the decimal, put in the 0 in there. 50 can go into 200 4 times, so 224 times. So I'm going to put that in there. See, I'm even running out of space. That's how long this problem is taking. So 220 minus 200, I have 20. And I'm going to have to add another 0 behind it. 50 goes into 200 4 more times. So I still get 3 and 44 hundredths. But look at all these extra steps I had to do. Again, this is why my preference was to do the one on the right, where I'm just multiplying with decimals instead of multiplying with fractions, where I have to do lots of converting and then I have to change it at the very end to a simplified number. But take a moment. I would definitely write this one on the side, on the right side. You don't necessarily need the one on the left. Okay, hit pause and copy down. And that's how we multiply rational numbers.